All right, and boom. What is up, everybody? It's me, J Rod, the filmmaker, former filmmaker, frequent fighting gamer from Philadelphia, and we are back with another very special episode of, drumroll please, First and Final. If this is your first time, I just hope it's not your final time, but First and Final is a show I do on this channel pretty often at this point. We started way back in like 2020, I think, when the Mortal Kombat movie first came out, and I'm still waiting for the Mortal Kombat 2 movie. But either way, that's not what this is about. It's a two-part video where I take my first reaction to a certain show, movie, or other, and I take my final review of that show, movie, or other, and I put them together in one video. Usually it takes a long time because when that first trailer, teaser, whatever comes out, there's usually a lot of time until the final thing comes out and I can see it and I can review it. For this one, I am recording my first reaction in September of 2024. It's actually the day before Mortal Kombat 1 Chaos Reigns comes out, but by the time you are seeing it, Mortal Kombat 1 Chaos Reigns will have been out for like half a year already, because the final movie comes out in May of 2025. So hello to everyone in the future. I hope it's better in the future than it is currently in the past. We're gonna already have Chaos Reigns by then. We might also have some other Mortal Kombat guest characters. We might have our entire combat pack too by this time in May of 2025. But either way, May of 2025 is when the movie Thunderbolts is released, the Marvel Studios film that features a bunch of random characters and villains from the Marvel Universe coming together to a team. I know that kind of sounds familiar because that is basically the plot of the Suicide Squad, but this is like a Marvel version of the Suicide Squad. If Thunderbolts came out in the comics before Suicide Squad, then okay, I don't really care, but that's basically what this seems like to me, a Marvel version of Suicide Squad. Also, we're gonna have Creature Commandos coming out, which is like another Suicide Squad but for monsters, ghouls, and goblins. But so here's the thing about Thunderbolts. Whenever I do these first and final videos, I usually am checking out a movie or a film or other that I am really interested in and I cannot wait to see. Sometimes I'm excited for it, and then once the movie finally comes out, I am a lot less excited for it. I think that's the case with like the Borderlands film. Check out my first and final for that if you haven't already. And even I could say the same about maybe Doctor Strange 2 in the Multiverse of Madness. I was excited for that film, kinda, when it first was revealed. Then after I saw it, I was a lot less excited about it. At this point, we've done some Marvel TV shows like X-Men 97. That one had a pretty good review. And we've done Deadpool and Wolverine, the only Marvel film of 2024. That had a really good review. I actually really like Deadpool and Wolverine. Also, by the time you're seeing this, I will have done Captain America Brave New World. I haven't seen that film. It's not out yet, so I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. But, you know, maybe I gave that a positive review. And then also we've had... what else? Oh, Agatha All Along, which just started by the time I'm recording this first reaction, but by the time you're seeing the final video, I will have already seen, reacted, and reviewed Agatha All Along, and that video should be up as well. So, I don't really know how I'm going to feel about the final review of Thunderbolts. I'm still reserving my opinions until I get there, but I have some problems with Thunderbolts. Specifically, one character on the Thunderbolts roster, U.S. Agent. U.S. Agent was my biggest problem with that film because they basically created like a terrible person of a character, gave him the Captain America mantle, made him do terrible things wearing that Captain America mantle, and then gave him a shitty, thin, light-ass redemption arc where he never really faced any real consequences for his actions in Captain America Winter Soldier. And after all of that, he gets rewarded with another job. This guy keeps doing terrible things and keeps getting rewarded for it. If you want to check out the video where I go in depth, it's called The Problem with Redemption. It's a video essay. And I talk about redemption arcs, but why that one really just was not it. But bro literally murdered a guy in a foreign country, in public, in front of a bunch of people. It wasn't the guy that he was actually looking for at the time who murdered his friend. And didn't face any jail time, didn't really, you know. And I want to keep in mind that there were superheroes that faced jail time after Captain America Civil War just for like not signing the Sokovia Accords and having a fight in an airport. Like, they faced actual jail time in the raft for that and became actual fugitives. And then this dude, U.S. agent, actually killed a guy. And you could say he wasn't innocent, but he definitely wasn't guilty of the crime that he was extrajudiciously murdered for. And then, yeah, didn't face any real consequences. They just took his mantle away. But this dude, I was going to use a different word. This guy literally just made his own shield, kept wearing the costume, and kept doing vigilante stuff anyway. So he faced absolutely no consequences for that. And then at the end of the show, they say, hey, do you want a job? And he's like, oh, hell yeah, I want a job. And so that is at least U.S. Agent's arc leading up to Thunderbolts, which is why this character specifically is one that I'm watching out for. I don't like where he comes from and his role in the MCU, but we will see what they decide to do with him moving forward. He's not the only one in this movie. Winter Soldier is also in this movie. Yelena Belova, who is like the new Black Widow, is in this, as well as Ghost. If you guys, you probably don't remember Ghost from Antman and the Wasp, but because they have yet to really utilize Ghost at all. But Ghost is actually in this, and I believe also the Taskmaster from the Black Widow series. The Black Widow film is also going to be in this. But either way, this is going to be a random ass ensemble of like the worst characters in the MCU plus Bucky. And so we're going to see what they decide to actually do with this storyline. I'm very curious. And I wonder what my take is going to be after this first reaction and if it'll change before the final review. So without further ado, we're going to get into it. Let me switch over, boom, to the reaction camera. And let's check out this Thunderbolts trailer without wasting too much time. It is a teaser trailer. It's only 3 minutes. And so let's just get into it. Make sure the volume is up, and it is, so let's do it.
I click leave on porch.
Okay, we got Yelena.
Your subordinates will be reported to DoorDash HQ.
Alexi, it's me. Open up.
Alexi, aka David Harbour's character. He's brushing his teeth.
Yelena.
Hi, Dad.
This is a pretty dark trailer.
It was an important call. Highly classified. Lot of work. Many irons in fire.
You feel fulfilled?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so full. So filled. But why do you ask this? What brings you here?
These are two characters that I actually do want to see more from. I like their role in the Black Widow film.
There's something wrong with
I'm excited.
In emptiness. I'm just drifting.
There's our boy.
And I don't have purpose.
There's this trash
I thought
can.
Throwing myself into work was the answer.
Why does he have a kid, bro? Okay. Doing drills, putting in work like usual. Oh, there's U.S. Agent. Ghost? Wait, is that Taskmaster with that bow and arrow?
Oh no.
Who are you?
Who is that?
I'm Bob.
Who sent you, Bob?
And
Nobody.
there's Bob.
You were all sent?
Everyone here has done bad things. Shadow ops. Robbing government labs. Contract kills.
Yeah, so?
So, someone wants us gone.
Is it Bucky?
What the hell?
We're brought up with this belief that there are good guys and there are bad guys.
Who is Bob?
What's the plan?
Why was his arm in the dishwasher?
But eventually,
That was pretty
you come
sick.
to realize that there are bad guys and there are worse guys and nothing else. Look at you. So adorable.
Okay. Why is there an asterisk?
She's bulletproof. What happened to bulletproof? It's bulletproof-ish.
Is that Bucky?
That's not good.
Damn. Okay. Interesting. Now, I'll give it its credit. That looks like a really good action film. It looks good. It actually looks good. And I cannot be too mad. Like, I'm not going to let the fact that I hate U.S. Agent actually keep me from enjoying this film. Because it does actually look enjoyable. And he's only, what, like a fifth, a sixth of the main cast. It looked better than I thought. I'm actually pretty impressed with, you know, the story that they're bringing these characters together. And it is sort of that, like, Island of Misfit Toys, a bunch of characters you forgot about coming together. One of the first things I noticed is the outfits, the redesigns for all the characters. Ghost, specifically, and Taskmaster look completely different than their last iterations. I appreciate Ghost getting a new outfit because we haven't seen her in a long time. But if that's Taskmaster, I could be wrong with that one outfit. That design, I don't know if I like it as much. That redesign, at least. Because I thought the original Taskmaster outfit was actually pretty good. Why does U.S. Agent have a kid? Who gave him that? Put it back. And I'm wondering if, because like I said, they gave him a terrible redemption arc in his series where he was introduced. So I'm wondering if they're actually going to work on that redemption arc in the future. And I'm wondering how, like, what is the actual plot? Because I think what I assumed it would be is all these characters get hired and get put onto a team where they get like a Suicide Squad style mission where nobody really cares if they, you know, if they actually fulfill the mission or if they die in the process. Yeah, that definitely looks like Taskmaster, and I don't know how I feel about that redesign. But the way that Taskmaster and Ghost kind of show up at the same time, maybe those two are working together. Who is Bob? Who is Bob? That really is throwing me off. I feel like I should know, and that's probably going to be an important character to the plot. But who is Bob? Either way, I like the tone of it, that it's like dark, mysterious action thriller. It's a bit different than the tone of the other Marvel films, but it does still have a little bit of DNA of like maybe Captain America, Winter Soldier, or like I'm trying to think, a little bit of like what Black Widow had, but Black Widow I think was a little bit lighter in tone, and this is going to be a more dark thriller. It'll probably do a good job picking up after Captain America Brave New World. I just want to know who Bob is. Now, the scene, I don't know why the scene where they showed Bob getting like shot at by a firing squad and you see the bullets hitting the ground. Is Bob like invincible? Does this dude have a healing factor? I know that this is not like Wolverine or a different version of Deadpool or anything, but are they going for a similar power set? Is this dude like a new Mark III super soldier that just can't be hit? I'm really curious about Bob's story. I'm curious about how all these characters come together and what they're going to do once they are together. And then this scene kind of shows that we got all of these characters. They seem like they were all sent to do the same job, and then maybe someone tries to kill them or tries to set them up at the job. And then it seems like Bucky is hunting them after that. So I'm wondering if they all start off... I don't think they're all going to start off on the same team. Maybe it's like a 2v2 with Bucky trying to kill them all. Maybe they're all in it for themselves and they find a common good. Like, for some reason, it seems like Ghost and Taskmaster are working together. I see like a similar outfit, the way they showed up in the story at the same time. Maybe these two are working together. These two get thrown into the fray, and Bucky is hunting them all at first, but then he joins in for some reason and starts working with them all. I think that's what has me interested. There is a bit of mystique and mystery to this plot, and you know, I can't say it's going to be good, but I at least want to figure out where the story goes. That part definitely has me interested. So I will definitely be back in May of 2025 to check out the full movie and see what happens. If there's any more significant trailers or reveals that come between them, I might throw that in there as well. But if not, I've got about 8 more months until this film comes out. So I will see you guys in the future. Let's see, what do we have for time travel this time? I always got something. Okay, we don't have any really good time travel devices for this one, but Bucky told me he'll hook me up with some sort of super soldier cryostasis thing. He promises that they won't use me to assassinate people while I'm asleep, and that when I wake up, I'll be fully right and I won't be reprogrammed into an assassin like he was. So I'm going to take a nap for 8 months inside this Winter Soldier cryo sleep chamber. And when I wake up, the full film of Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts, asterisks, will be out and I will be able to see it. I will get all the answers to my unanswered questions. And I will give you guys my full review, spoiler-free and spoiler-filled, and the whole thing of how I feel about this film. So guys, I'm going to pass it over to myself in the future in 8 months, and I will see you there to review the final film of Thunderbolts. Ladies and gentlemen, I am fresh out of Super Soldier cryo sleep. Unfortunately, they did not give me any sort of serum, so I'm pretty much the same as I was last time you saw me, which was late last year, about September 2024, when I reacted to the first ever trailer for Thunderbolts. A lot of things have happened since that first trailer. They came out with a second trailer around the Super Bowl, and I did react to that trailer and upload it on the channel, so you guys can check that out. We had the new Captain America movie, Captain America Brave New World, came out earlier this year around Valentine's Day, and I checked that out and did a first and final for that. Daredevil Born Again wrapped up. I was supposed to do a first and final video for Daredevil Born Again, but when I went to edit that video, it turns out that I didn't have my audio. I didn't have any mic audio when I was reacting to the trailer, so I pivoted and we did a Last of Us video instead. But today is May 2nd. It's the official day that Thunderbolts comes out in theaters. I actually checked it out yesterday. I am ready to talk about Thunderbolts, so we're going to get into it with my spoiler-free thoughts. Then I'm going to get into the spoilers, and I'm going to talk a little bit about each character and their arc, and then we're going to get up out of here. I don't want to take too long with this review, but I do have a lot to say, so I want to make sure I get through everything. But to start off with my spoiler-free review of the Thunderbolts, it's a good film. I know that that's mostly my spoiler-free reviews for a lot of these movies, but I honestly do think that, and going into it, I was a little bit worried about this film. Not because I'm worried about the MCU. I think the MCU overall is actually in a good place right now. I think they have a lot of characters that they can use, a lot of stories that they can still use, and they're building up to some major arcs like Fantastic Four, X-Men, Avengers Doomsday, which we've finally got some news about and they've started production on. But I was worried about this film, to be completely honest, because the last movie I saw before this was Sinners. And Sinners is such a good film. Sinners is amazing all around. Great characters, great story. It's a movie you could watch over and over again. It made me fall in love with movies again because I'm thinking about going to see it in IMAX, and I'm watching like press tour interviews with the director, and everyone just seems so enthusiastic about the film. The press tour just seems like such a fun place to be. The set just seemed like such a fun place. And they made just an amazing movie, and it was refreshing to see people so excited about making an amazing movie. So going into Thunderbolts, my biggest worry was that is a really hard act to follow. In my opinion, Sinners is the best movie of the year so far. We'll see if anything can top it. And so going into Thunderbolts, I wasn't expecting it to be the best movie of the year or anything. I wasn't even expecting it to be the best Marvel movie of the year, considering we're going to get Fantastic Four soon. But all my reservations and doubts and worries aside, Thunderbolts was really good. It was such a fun watch. It hit multiple angles. It was action-packed. The action in it is really good. It was funny. The comedy is really good. The characters play off of each other really well. And it was still heartfelt at the end of the day. There were a lot of really good emotional moments. And I think the overall arc of the movie was a pretty good just emotional story, kind of a story about mental health at the end of the day, wrapped up in a really nice action comedy Marvel film with a great ensemble cast, some characters that I had been wanting to see more of for a long time, and some characters that I already have seen a lot of, and I just, was excited to have them back in the story. Overall, Thunderbolts is really good. It's a fun movie. It's a great movie. It's like easy to get into and easy to love, I think, in my opinion. I have some things that I want to talk about it, but I don't really have any things that I hated about the movie, didn't like, or things I thought were bad. Just some questionable choices, and that's what I'm going to get into more in the spoilers. But as for my spoiler-free thoughts, would I recommend you go see Thunderbolts? Yeah, actually I would. I think if you like You don't even have to like all of these characters. I don't think there's anyone out there who likes all of these characters, but if you like any of these characters, you would probably enjoy this. This is the closest thing we've gotten so far to it, like a Bucky solo film. So if you like Winter Soldier and Bucky, you would probably like this film. If you like the shows, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, this kind of picks up some of those themes from the Falcon and Winter Soldier and continues the story, at least for Bucky and for John Walker. If you liked the Black Widow movie, this continues the arcs of a couple of characters from the Black Widow movie. Yelena Belova, who is probably going to be our new Black Widow, Red Guardian, aka Alexei, and Taskmaster is in the movie. We'll talk more about that in the spoilers. I was really happy to see Ghost back and to see her actually get a real arc instead of just being like a supporting, like, jobber type B villain in a movie. So I was excited to see Ghost. I don't think there are any like major Ghost fans out there, but if you are, we've got a movie with Ghost in it and you guys will probably enjoy it. And then there's a bunch of new characters, and then there's also Valentina, who is like kind of our new Nick Fury in a sense. We'll get more into that in the spoilers. She didn't really have much of an arc in the story, but I think we do finally understand her motivations, who she is as a character, and where she's going to go in the future of the MCU. So yeah, I think that's everything that I can say without spoiling the film, but overall I thought it was a good film. I think I like this film better than Captain America Brave New World. I didn't think it would be as impactful to the overall MCU as Captain America was, but I think it is. Now that I've seen it, now that I'll talk more about that, but getting into the post-credit scenes and things like that, I think this is a very important film for the MCU, so you probably don't want to miss it if you're just interested in the general overall story of where Marvel is going. But that is going to be everything I can get into without spoiling it, so I'm going to get into spoilers now. This is your official spoiler warning. You hear the spoiler warning? That's it. So after this, I'm going to start spoiling the film. If you have not already seen it, go ahead and check it out. It's out now. It'll be out for a while. And once you see it, come back and we can talk spoilers, because that's what I'm about to do now. And I do want to get into it with each of the characters. So I don't want to take too long. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the character that I gotta start with is Taskmaster. If you saw my reaction to the trailer that they dropped on the Super Bowl, I noticed there was a lot less Taskmaster in that trailer than there initially was in the first trailer. In that thumbnail for the Super Bowl trailer, I even put a little like missing poster with Taskmaster on it, because she was missing for a lot of that trailer. And the reason why is Taskmaster dies very, very early in the film without getting any sort of arc, without getting any sort of character interactions. Taskmaster gets taken out abruptly and early in this film, and I don't know why. I was excited for, like, out of all the characters, right? It was cool to see Bucky. I like Yelena Belova and Alexei as Red Guardian. I have problems with John Walker. We'll talk more about that. But Ghost and Taskmaster, I was excited for them to like finally get a chance to exist in a film, become a full-rounded character, and not just like I said earlier, a jobber type villain in a Marvel movie. And we got that for Ghost. We did not get that for Taskmaster because they just straight up killed her off. I don't know why they did that. I'm honestly still confused. I didn't get any sort of like catharsis from that. I didn't get any sort of like, okay, that's a good place to end off the arc. I didn't even get sort of like well, she was bad and she killed people and she deserved it. Like, I didn't get any of that, because honestly, the moral of the story is the opposite of that, right? Like they say it at some point throughout this film, we're bad, we killed people, and eventually someone's going to kill us. That's just how life goes for us. That's what they say after Taskmaster dies. But the moral of the story is the opposite of that. The moral of the story is that these characters can do better. If they work together, they can be better, and that they should. So why didn't Taskmaster get any of that arc? They just kind of boop, and she's gone.
And it's gone.
And that was so weird to me. Everyone in this movie did bad things, but they all got a chance to kind of redeem themselves from it, except for Taskmaster. I mean, even Bucky. Bucky is a known brainwashed Hydra assassin who we know killed Tony Stark's parents And for whatever reason, at this point, he's a senator. Is it senator or congressman? I was supposed to remember specifically what his position is, representative. But they elected Bucky to office, even though we know he's a former Hydra assassin. And then we just get Taskmaster gets killed off, gets no arc. That's what I thought. That was my one major gripe with the story. But anyway, I'm not going to talk more about Taskmaster. Moving on to Ghost. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of Ghost, and I like that Ghost actually got to do stuff. She didn't have much of a character emotional arc. Like, we didn't talk much about her backstory. We didn't talk much about her origins, her family, what she believes in, and what she wants to do. But I do like that she got to do a lot of physical stuff. She got to do a lot of stunts. She now seemingly has like control over her powers due to this like new suit that she has. And she's really cool. Like, Ghost is one of the coolest visual characters in this movie because her power set is not just I'm strong and I throw things. You know, she's phasing through things. She's using that in her combat. She is our stealth person, our spy person. She is probably the best assassin of the bunch, considering she did kill her target, Taskmaster. But I really like seeing Ghost, and I really like just giving this actress more lines and involving her with more characters, and not just making her the fodder villain, but actually making her, you know, her arc progressing from a fodder villain into an actual hero in this arc, in this story. I think that is what Thunderbolts is all about. Love seeing Ghost, and I'm happy that she was back. Then we've got Valentina. This is Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character that has been like assembling this team, working in the shadows, and showing up here and there. She showed up at the end of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and gave John Walker a job. We now see what that job is. She basically had all of these characters working as cleaners. So she was doing some very, very shady stuff, trying to create her own version of a super soldier. And when that stuff would go wrong, or when the government would come snooping around, she would have her cleaners come in and blow up the sites, take out, assassinate the doctors that were working on it, destroy any of the evidence. And her plan in this movie was also to destroy the cleaners themselves as the evidence. That didn't work, except for in the case of Taskmaster. But we got a little teeny bit of her origins and her motivations, but more so we got what she's willing to do to maintain her status. And that's like her arc this entire movie. She will manipulate anyone. She doesn't care if you're a superhero. She doesn't care if you're the Winter Soldier. She does not care if you're the media, the press, the government. Her whole arc in the story is to manipulate any and everybody in order to maintain her power. And I like what they did with it, where they made it seem like maybe she finally got caught. She was finally going to have to, you know, pay for her crimes. But in the end, not really. She found another way to manipulate the system. And in the end, the heroes, the Thunderbolts, are going to find a way to manipulate her. So I like that arc for them. I would have wanted like a little bit more maybe origin for Valentina, because I still really want to know like how she fits into the story overall. But I think that it probably would have taken away from the arcs of all the characters, because this is a big ensemble cast, so you can't focus on every character. You got to focus on maybe one or two, and then give the other characters their stories in the periphery. Next up, Bucky, the Winter Soldier. This, like I said, this is like Bucky's closest thing to a solo film. It's not a solo film for Bucky. I wouldn't even really consider Bucky to be the main character of this, but he does have a huge involvement in it. This kind of picks up from where he was in Captain America Brave New World. He is trying to be a politician, but that literally doesn't last long until he's already back moonlighting as the Winter Soldier. Bucky is showing in this film that he is his own person. He has agency, and he is trying to do good and kind of clear his name in that sense. Since he's already an elected official, I don't think most people are thinking about the war crimes that he committed when he was brainwashed for like 100 years. But either way, you can tell that Bucky himself does still kind of feel the need to work towards his redemption. Unlike another character that we're about to talk about next. But I liked Bucky's involvement in this film. Like I said, he's not the main character in the sense that he gets most of the story time or he leads the narrative. That is probably going to be Yelena Belova. But he's probably the secondary character. Like, he gets the most amount of development and story time outside of Yelena, and it's fun to see. Nothing crazy comes of Bucky's arc, but it really is just him trying his best to fill in for, I think, the void that is left, no pun intended, the void that is left with not having a full-fledged Avengers team. I think Bucky feels that the most, so he's kind of almost soloing. He's like a solo Avenger in this film and taking on everything by himself. Next up, we've also got Walker. So if you saw my first reaction, I had a lot to say about John Walker, aka U.S. Agent. My problem with the Falcon and Winter Soldier's arc for John Walker, in short, is that I liked his introduction. I liked the fact that he was basically a antithesis, a foil, a heel, a sort of like, he wasn't a villain initially, but he was like your heel. He was your kind of opposite to the people we know are heroes, and we got to get through him in order to progress through our arc. I liked his introduction. I liked how they used him in the film until I even like the fact that they went as dark as they did and had John Walker just straight up kill a dude. I thought that was unexpected. That was a bold choice, but I liked where they went with it, assuming that they were going to go really dark with what he did to kind of fall from grace, and then they would go really deep with what he would do for redemption. My problem was that they did not go deep at all with his redemption. They went as shallow as possible with his redemption. So that made the thing that he did to fall from grace, murdering a guy, the really dark thing he did, it made it seem random as hell. Like, if he's not going to do anything, like he's not going to face any real consequences from his actions, why did you have him do like the worst thing that a guy could do in a Captain America uniform? That was my opinion on Walker. In this film, I wanted to see if they would give him a better arc. They gave him a slightly better arc, I will say. What I liked about Walker in this film is he kind of leans into it. He's a douche. He's an asshole. Nobody really likes him, and there was a lot of like dogpiling, bullying on him, reminding him of his past mistakes. I liked all of that. I liked bullying John Walker. I think he's a really easy target for it. But if I'm thinking about what he did in this film for redemption, and does that kind of balance out with what he did in the other films to kind of fall from grace? Nothing. He doesn't really do much in this film for redemption, except for what all the other characters are doing, right? He just kind of teams up with them, learns to like trust in other people, and helps them save the day. I think he did start to learn lessons that he should have learned years ago when the Falcon and the Winter Soldier came out, but to say that he's fully redeemed from that, I can't say that at all, because if we talk about like which characters are in the focus and which characters are in the periphery, Walker is definitely in the periphery, so he didn't have as much development as the other characters. What we did get for Walker is that he has continued to fall from grace since the events of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier in his personal life. He really thought he was the hero when all of the Thunderbolts kind of first meet each other and realize they're being played against each other. He's like, no, you guys are the bad guys. They're going to send a riot and come pick me up and take me home to my wife and kids, not realizing that he was going to be assassinated just like the rest of them, because Valentina considers him to just be a disposable discount Captain America. She even literally says that at some point in the story.
I don't think so. Junior varsity Captain America.
Walker.
And so this was more about like John, I don't know why, but John Walker still has a massive ego after the events of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and this was kind of him working through his own ego. I wish they would have given him a better arc overall, but the way they're hinting at it is that now that he's a Thunderbolt or even an Avengers with a Z, now he might start to get some of that redemption that he should have gotten a long time ago. So still, I want better for John Walker. That's what I will say. This was better than the last, but I still want better than this for John Walker. Next up, Alexei, Yelena Belova are characters from Black Widow's sister and father. So Yelena, like I said, is the main character here in this one because she gets most of the introspection. She gets the longest arc. She is the one who kind of figures out what we need to do to take down the villain. And moving into going from the Thunderbolts to the new Avengers, she is like the leader of the new team. Honestly, Bucky's kind of teaching her how to do it, but she is acting as the leader of this new Avengers team. And then Alexei, his arc is basically in support of her. He doesn't have much going on, but they come from a similar place. So in the beginning of this film, they're kind of not feeling fulfilled, even though Alexei says he's very full, very filled. He's just lying about that because he wants to seem strong in front of his kid. But both of them are kind of not feeling like they're living up to their true potential. They feel the loss of Natasha, the former Black Widow, but they haven't actually been able to work through it and process that, so they throw themselves into their work, which for Yelena is being a cleaner and fixing up Valentina's mistakes, and for Alexei is being a limo driver, which I thought was really funny. But through the events of the story, they do kind of find their calling. But in addition to that kind of the physical arc of going from not feeling fulfilled to feeling fulfilled, you also get this emotional internal conflict for Yelena, where she talks about the void and the feelings of grief that she hasn't confronted, and all of that kind of creeping up on her. She tried to throw herself into work to avoid it, but it still is going to creep up on you. Even in this movie, she says, in one point she says, just take those feelings and push them down. But then later in the film, she says you can't push them down. You're gonna have to confront them one way or another. And she confronts her emotional baggage by physically confronting the void, the villain of this story. And it kind of goes parallel. And I really like that for Yelena. She definitely is the main character because she gets the most well-rounded arc in this story. And I like that they focused on one character. I think Florence Pugh is really good as this character, so it was fun to watch, and I think she did a great job, and she always does with this character. But yeah, I have no complaints on Yelena Belova and Red Guardian's side. I think they were both really great. They were funny when they needed to be. They were heartfelt when they needed to be. They got to be heroes, and I really did like that for both of them. So we've got, I'm pretty sure they didn't confirm this, but I think that moving forward, Yelena is officially the new Black Widow. She was kind of unofficially the new Black Widow, but I think that this is her taking up the mantle and being more public facing. And then finally, there is one more character, Bob. You saw my first reaction to the trailer in my introduction to Bob and having no idea who Bob is. I did figure out a little while after watching that trailer who Bob is, and Bob is Sentry. I loved Bob. I love Bob's involvement in this story, how they put him in it. I loved, so there is this, when I watched the second trailer, you could tell that there is Sentry and then the Void, and I was thinking maybe that was not the same character, but that was Sentry going through something that kind of turned him into the Void. In a sense, that was correct, but I was wrong about that not being the same character. That was Bob, Sentry, Void is all the same guy. So I like what they did with kind of him having a split personality, if you would say. Very, very strong, extremely strong, just like he is in the comics, but also kind of down to earth and just seems like a normal dude for most of this movie until he realizes his power, and then quickly turns up and goes right off the walls once he gets that Sentry costume, and then shortly after that becomes Void and goes and becomes even worse. I thought that Bob was a really cool character in this film. Technically he is the villain. You could say that Valentina is also the villain, but I think Bob Sentry became the villain himself, and I thought that was a really good use of an extremely strong character. I just thought he was great. One of my favorite parts about Bob / Sentry / Void was the VFX on him. In the beginning, normal guy, then he becomes Sentry and has a pretty comic accurate costume, but when he becomes Void, he looks so insanely cool. He is completely blacked out with glowing white eyes, and then he's turning people into shadows. You kind of saw a little bit of that in the second trailer. All of those VFX were just really good. The void spreading across New York was such a cool visual effect. Turning people into shadows was such a cool visual effect, and then just his overall look when he was Void all looked really cool, and that was great. And then he does have a similar internal conflict as to Yelena Belova, which is why all of them are sort of feeling the same things, and they realize that the best way to work through their issues is to work together through their issues. So that that saying, joy shared is twice the joy, but grief shared is half the grief, something along those lines. And the moral of it is kind of to get by with the help of your friends, to kind of lean on people, share that with people, and they can help you get through it, help you work through it. That is kind of the moral of this story, because what Yelena is going through, she only gets help with when she shares it with Alexei. And then what Bob is going through, he only gets through it when he can share that with Yelena. And then everyone in the story kind of realizes they work together, they share their grief, they kind of work through everything as a team, that they can all get through it. And I think that was a pretty good moral of the story overall. But I think that is everything that I wanted to talk about in this film. Went a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I think I got through everything, all the characters, all the arcs, and how I feel about it overall. In general, I liked the film. I thought it was great. Thought it could be a bit better, but it's still really good. I like how it's setting up the next couple arcs. I like how it is taking these characters that were just supporting characters and actually giving them their own team, their own time to stand in the focus, in the limelight. I don't think we're going to get like a Thunderbolts 2 anytime soon, but a lot of these characters are going to be involved in the next MCU major Avengers plots. And I can't wait to see if maybe eventually John Walker finally gets that character development and redemption that he's been searching for years. So that is going to be it for this one. That is everything that I wanted to say about Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts asterisk. But yeah, it's really cool. I also really like the joke of, you know, how they got the name Thunderbolts, and then it was based on Yelena's soccer team that was so bad that they never won a game or scored a point, and one girl actually made a poop on the field. That's just hilarious, because that's very indicative of how bad the Thunderbolts are as a superhero team compared to how bad the Thunderbolts were as a soccer team. But that is everything that I wanted to say in this reaction / review. You guys can also check out my second reaction to Thunderbolts that I dropped earlier this year around when the Super Bowl came out. And before we get out of here, do me a quick favor and boom, hit me with the 3-hit combo. I need you to smash the like button like Ryu, spear the subscribe button like Scorpion, and kick the notification bell like Kazuya. If you have seen the Thunderbolts and you enjoy it, make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. If you've seen the Thunderbolts and you didn't enjoy it, then let me know down in the comments. What about it do you think should have been better? What could they have worked on? Any of that and all of that. Also, we're going to be back with some more first and final videos soon. I'm going to do one for Fantastic Four, where I actually posted my first reaction on the channel, so you can check out my first reaction to Fantastic Four right now. We're going to do one for Andor when that series finishes up, and then there's Superman also, and there's probably a couple more things coming that I don't yet know about. I think that it's interesting. They're changing the balance of the MCU, where usually we get a beginning of the year movie around February, a mid-year movie, and then an end of the year movie around like November. But actually, Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four are going to go back to back. Fantastic Four is like next month. And then there is no movie slated for the end of the year as of right now. So we'll have to wait and see what's next for the MCU after Fantastic Four. I think Fantastic Four is going to be a major arc. It's going to set up a lot of stuff going into Avengers Doomsday. But either way, I am very excited. So guys, that's going to be it for this one. Check out my last first and final video for Captain America Brave New World. Check out my first and final video for any of the properties mentioned here. I did one for Antman and the Wasp Quantumania. I made a video for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier all about why I hate John Walker's arc. And so you can check that out. But I have a bunch of other videos. Last week we played New Game Alert, and we played the newest fighting game, Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. And next week I'll be back with some more Last of Us 2 playthrough. So check out that playlist if you have not already started. But that is going to be it for this one, guys. So tell me how you feel. Tell me if you feel me, and I will see you next time in another new one. Peace out. You ever seen a combo?
That's a lot of damage!
What the fuck was that? Was I supposed to block that? No.